With 31 seasons and counting on the air, The Simpsons is undeniably a television phenomenon, both the longest-running American sitcom and animated program. In fact, throughout its nearly 700 episodes, creator Matt Groaning and his team have been so on top of the country's cultural pulse. They've even managed to predict several major historical events. Welcome back to FilmShack. Today, we prepared for you 10 times when The Simpsons predicted the future. Number 10. USA wins gold in curling.
Take that, Sweden! Tell me how my ice tastes!
The USA is the ultimate underdog in curling, mostly because curling is such a gentlemanly sport, and most of the US's favorite sports are only a step away from barbaric gladiator matches. If curling added just a bit more head trauma and cursing out everyone on the ice, the US might just win the title. No one could have guessed the US could win curling in the Olympics, except The Simpsons. In Boy Meets Curl, Marge and Homer join the US Olympic curling team, and you can probably guess where this is going. Thanks to their participation, the US wins the gold, and in 2018, history repeated The Simpsons as the US won gold for competitive ice sweeping. Granted, if Marge and Homer joined the team, they were gonna win in Simpsons world. The Simpsons is a rather optimistic show, but it's not like the writers of The Simpsons had to choose curling for Marge and Homer to participate in. They could have chosen a much more American sport, like ice hockey, in which losing teeth while playing is the name of the game. By the way, that's the official tagline of the sport of ice hockey. Number 9. Mutant Tomatoes.
This tomato will be Heinz ketchup, and this tomato will be Hunt's ketchup.
With all the experimentation and hybridization done with our agriculture, this one was bound to happen eventually. But oh well. It's a great episode, and it shows that The Simpsons are a good satire for even future events. After Homer makes enemies with the wrong kind of guy, he and his family are forced to move out to the country, where he acquires some plutonium and uses it to grow tomaco, a tomato/tobacco hybrid. This mimicked both the horrors that Monsanto is totally not cooking up on their farms, and more specifically in 2013, when a bunch of plants hybridized because they were growing next to a power plant in Fukushima, Japan. I don't know which went up first, but either the owners of the plant were jerks for building a vat of radioactivity so close to a farm, or the farmer was an idiot for starting a farm so close to a nuclear power plant. A nuclear power plant is the second worst place to set up shop next to, right after a Native American burial ground. That's just science. Number 8. Autocorrect fails.
Beat up, Martin! Bah!
During a Springfield Elementary School assembly, Kearney asks fellow bully Dolph to take a memo to beat up Martin on his Newton, Apple's early attempt at a personal digital assistant. However, the machine translates the message into "eat up Martha" instead, foreshadowing the common messaging errors people blame on iPhone's autocorrect technology. In fact, Nitin Ganatra, Apple's former director of engineering for iOS applications, revealed in 2013 that The Simpsons gag served as a rallying cry while developing the software for the iPhone's keyboard. If you heard people talking and they used the words "eat up Martha," it was basically a reference to the fact that we needed to nail the keyboard. We needed to make sure the text input works on this thing. Otherwise, here comes the "eat up Marthas," he told Fast Company. Number 7. Russians vote to clothe Michelangelo's statue of David.
Is it a masterpiece, or just some guy with his pants down? That's our topic tonight on Smartline. Now, Mrs. Simpson, why are you against this statue?
I'm not. I think everyone in Springfield should see it.
Michelangelo's The Statue of David is one of the most famous sculptures in all the world. And one of the things it's most famous for is, well, flashing its privates to anyone who looks at it. When the episode aired in 1990, Russians would vote over whether to cover up the statue in 2016. The Simpsons predicted that someone would try to cover it up in Itchy and Scratchy and Marge, when Marge gets a little censorship happy after deciding the Itchy and Scratchy show was too violent. Then, almost 30 years later, we got the news that Russia was unhappy with David's nudity and were deciding whether to do something about it. Why Russia had authority in this matter is anyone's guess. The statue is in France, but I suppose the world's biggest prudes got the most to say. The funniest part of the issue is that they weren't voting on whether to cover the statue up with a tarp. It's a priceless piece of art that deserves to be seen. They were voting on whether to literally dress David. This, of course, begs the question, what clothes were they planning to drape over the timeless statue? My vote is for a Hawaiian shirt and bell-bottoms. Number 6. The God Particle.
Or you could take something that already exists and find a new use for it, like
Hamburger earmuffs.
The existence of the Higgs boson, or God particle, a breakthrough that helps explain how everything in the universe has mass, wasn't confirmed by physicists until 2012. But according to Dr. Simon Singh, the author of The Simpsons and Their Mathematical Secrets, after Homer decided to become an inventor in The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, he was pictured standing in front of a blackboard with an equation that predicted the mass of the yet-to-be-discovered particle. If you work it out, you get the mass of a Higgs boson. That's only a bit larger than the nanomass of a Higgs boson actually is, he told The Independent. It's kind of amazing, as Homer makes this prediction 14 years before it was discovered. Number 5. 2010's advanced technology in 1995.
Hi, Mom. Lisa, hello. How are you doing in England?
In this episode, Lisa learns the future from a fortune teller at a Renaissance fair. A lot of Simpsons episodes take place in the future, and a couple of them predict future technology. But that's not too hard, considering that many futuristic movies accurately predict future technology. Blade Runner predicted advancements in AI, and Back to the Future Part 2 predicted video calls. Although I'm still upset that 2015 didn't bring us actual flying hoverboards. The Simpsons prediction is especially cool because it predicted two technologies that would be linked together. In the episode, Lisa's boyfriend Hugh proposes to her, and when she rejects, Hugh tells his watch he's going to call an audible. This both predicts voice recognition and smartwatches, two technologies that go together, as voice recognition is a capability of most smartwatches. Number 4. President Donald Trump.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
We're broke.
Remember in 2016 when we all held our breath as we waited to hear the results of the most divisive election in US history? Well, The Simpsons had the results back in 2000. This was an election that even pollsters had trouble predicting, but The Simpsons had it right 16 years before it happened. Trump was running for office as a Reform Party candidate when President Lisa Simpson announced that she had a big mess to clean up now that her predecessor was Trump. No one thought that could happen back then. This was before America itself became a reality TV show, and we figured that we should let a reality TV star run it. Trump was considered just a joke candidate back then, and no one thought a Trump presidency could happen. He ran for the Reform Party. I guarantee you, 90% of Americans didn't know about the Reform Party and thought it was a party you threw whilst renovating your house. There was no chance Trump could win back then, and yet The Simpsons warned us all a Trump presidency could happen. I guess we need to start watching The Simpsons diligently to avoid any disasters and support all triumphs. Number 3. The Shard Building in London.
Lisa, I can't bear the thought of being apart from you all summer. Come back with me to Parkfield Manor.
I'd love to.
I know. I'm double dipping in Lisa's wedding. But this coincidence is too on point not to mention. In the opening shot of this episode, we see Big Ben with a digital clock face, which in itself is a hilarious joke, which is bound to turn into a prediction come true at some point, when kindergartens everywhere stop teaching kids how to read analog. But next to it is an oddly shaped spire, which seems out of place in the London skyline. Then in 2013, enter the Shard. The Shard is a very modern-looking multi-purpose building in London that was constructed almost 2 decades after the episode aired. This weird-looking spire in Lisa's wedding looks almost identical to the top of the Shard. Why did the animators at The Simpsons include this detail? It was a completely unnecessary side detail and a joke. They're witches, I tell you. Number 2. The 2020 Experience.
Sarge, we keep getting orders to let the virus win.
Must be a school day. Lay down your arms.
If 2020 was a bingo card, The Simpsons could already have at least 2 squares ticked off. In the nearly 30-year-old episode, Marge in Chains, not only does an unexpected flu sweep through Springfield, but when the townspeople begin rioting to demand a cure for the virus, a swarm of killer bees that could be linked to the murder hornets that recently hit the US unexpectedly came into the picture. On the other hand, episode co-writer Bill Oakley told The Hollywood Reporter in March that any comparisons the storyline seemed to invite to coronavirus are purely coincidental. There are very few cases where The Simpsons predicted something, he said. It's mainly just coincidence, because the episodes are so old that history repeats itself. Most of these episodes are based on things that happened in the 60s, 70s, or 80s that we knew about. Number 1. A civilian goes to space. In 2013, the UK picked an average Joe to become an astronaut. It was an incredibly weird and borderline irresponsible decision, as it takes tons of physical, emotional, and academic training to go to space. No one could have predicted the UK making such a call to send an untrained individual into space. Except, well, you can probably guess who. Nearly 2 decades before this happened in England, The Simpsons premiered Deep Space Homer. After seeing that their space launches had dipped in the ratings when broadcast on TV, NASA decides to send an average Joe into space. And Homer Simpson is as average as they come. Maybe the writers of the show aren't perfect future tellers. A 25-year-old woman was the real winner of the contest in Britain, but cut them some slack. Having Yoda-like abilities isn't easy, and their crystal ball probably gets some radio interference working on the Fox lot. We would like to invite you to share your opinion with us. Do you agree with our list? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications bell. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye!